Back in the late 1980s, my family was renting a house in a quiet suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. The place was old and had a reputation among the neighbors for being a bit spooky, but we didn't think much of it until one summer afternoon. I was alone in the living room, engrossed in a book, while my sister Ella was upstairs taking a nap. The house had a musty smell and the kind of creaky floors that made every step sound like a thunderclap. It was a typical day, until something peculiar happened. Ella came downstairs, her face pale and her eyes wide with fear. She told me, "There's someone in my room." He looked right at me and then disappeared. Her voice was shaky as she described a man dressed in old-fashioned clothes, a worn-out suit and a bowler hat. With a look straight out of the 1920s, at first, I thought she was dreaming, but Ella was adamant. We checked the house together, but it was empty, just the two of us. The next day, while I was mowing the lawn, I ran into Mrs. Thompson from the house across the street. As we chatted, I mentioned the strange encounter Ella had described. When I detailed the man's appearance, Mrs. Thompson went ashen. She told me that many years ago, a man who fit that description had died in a tragic accident nearby. He had been a regular at a local speakeasy, and the story was that he still wandered the area, unable to rest. Chills ran down my spine as I realized the connection. Over the next few months, the eerie events intensified, objects moved on their own, whispers filled the empty rooms, and sometimes, I could swear I heard footsteps echoing down the halls when no one was there. We finally moved away, and the house seemed to settle into an uneasy quiet. But as we left, I couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was watching us from the shadows, forever tied to that old, mysterious place. When my husband and I moved into our new home in 2022, I was thrilled to start my dream of creating a small homestead. After our first winter, I finally got my flock of chickens, each one as cherished as family. Among them was Tweedledee, my favorite rooster, and the rest of my feathered friends quickly became dear companions. By early fall, our little flock had grown, and we had established a routine of supervised free-ranging. I kept a close bond with all my chickens, particularly my roosters, Gabriel, Rusty Pete, and Tweedledee. The first heartbreak came when Gabriel, our white rooster, passed away unexpectedly. I buried him where he loved to roam, hoping he'd find peace. Then, one weekend while I was away with a friend, I felt a deep sense of dread as I neared home. My intuition told me something was terribly wrong. When I arrived, only 6 of my hens were by the coop, and their fearful eyes told me something was amiss. I searched and called for hours, desperate for any sign of my missing chickens. My husband found one alive and another emerging from the woods, but the rest were gone. We later discovered a fox had attacked. I found a dead hen in the tall grass, and as I begged for my remaining chickens to come home, it began to rain. My tears mixed with the rain, as if the sky was mourning with me. Leaning against a tree, I sent out all my energy to search for the lost hens. In the midst of this, I saw flashes of the feather patterns of 3 of my Wyandotte hens and felt their presence as if they were saying goodbye. Despite weeks of searching, only the sounds of my roosters crowing in the woods and ghostly visions of Rusty Pete by the coop door remained. It was heart-wrenching to see his spirit, but I urged him to go in, knowing his girls were waiting. That night, I continued to see and hear the spirits of my roosters and hens, and the scene of the fox stalking around the coop. This traumatic event opened my abilities to seeing and hearing spirits, and I now feel a stronger connection to my lost chickens. The woods near my home have taken on a new significance, quieter, with a breeze that seems to carry more than before. I believe my feathered friends are reaching out from beyond, seeking my comfort and hoping to find peace. After my last car accident, we returned to Cape Town and settled into our new home in Tableview in May 1998. From the very first night, I felt a deep unease. I was plagued by nightmares and sleep paralysis, and I couldn't sleep near the window in my room or even in the living room. Strange things began to happen. Items would disappear and then reappear in odd places, sometimes weeks later. One night, my cat began growling at something unseen in my bedroom. Terrified, I jumped out of bed and turned on the light, but there was nothing there. The situation worsened, and I ended up sleeping in my mother's room because I couldn't bear to be alone. I always felt as though an evil presence was watching me through the windows. On March 31, 2008, I gave birth to my first son, and on June 20, 2009, to my daughter. Fast forward to December 20, 2023, after our house in Dunoon burned down, we moved back to my mother's house in Tableview with my children. The house, however, has not lost its unsettling atmosphere. My son reports seeing demons and skinwalkers in the garden at night, and my daughter suffers from severe nightmares in my old room. The house continues to be a source of fear, with unexplained noises and sounds that disrupt our peace. Despite our knowledge of no previous tragic events or murders in this house, the hauntings persist. We're left wondering what could be causing these disturbances. If anyone has insights or explanations, please share in the comments. Thank you for your time.